Have you heard about the case of a Brandeis professor, tenured, 46 years teaching political science, Donald Hindley? He, in his Latin American politics class last fall, he talked about the term wetback, and he talked about it in a historical context, how it was used historically. He didn't use it as an epithet. And he was threatened with termination from the university, from Brandeis University, and he has monitors sitting in his classroom now. Fortunately, he's working with FIRE, the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, to fight this case. But this is particularly ironic at Brandeis University because, as probably a lot of you know, Louis Brandeis was a Chief Justice who was a champion, a defender of free speech. Yeah, pretty amazing. Let's start with Mexico, since they make up the largest number of pregnant women who come across our border. And as I mentioned earlier, they migrate to the border areas, or they live near the border, and they come over when they're in labor or they're late in their pregnancy. And they use a border crossing card ostensibly to go shopping. And a lot of the U.S. clinics advertise in Mexico that they help women with prenatal care, that they help them find obstetricians, and for a fee they help them navigate the paperwork, help them get birth certificates and passports for their children. There's an interesting situation in California that I wanted to mention, and I happen to know this because my husband works in the LA County hospital system. What's happened in recent years, I want to say about 10, maybe more, is the number of births at the county hospitals has dropped because the private hospitals have been luring patients away from county facilities, and the county facilities, with their birth census so much lower, their maternity services are threatened with closure. But what has happened is Medi-Cal reimburses very generously. They reimburse for the mother $1,216 a day. For the child, the same amount, $1,200. And if there's any kind of complication, the NICU reimbursement, the neonatal intensive care unit reimbursement is $1,200. Special services, special care for the child, another $1,200. So you can see private hospitals, they have the marketing budgets, they usually have newer, nicer facilities, better rooms, better food. So they have taken patients away from the county system. Let's talk a little bit about Korea. This is astounding. Thousands of pregnant Korean women come to the U.S. every year on tourist visas to give birth, and many of them come to the Los Angeles area because in Los Angeles there's a very large Korean population. And a mini industry has developed around this practice where travel agents specializing in birth tours help women with prenatal care, delivery, transportation, immigration lawyers, and even babysitters. And these women are picked up at the airport by private car, and a guide takes them to get a Social Security card and passport for the child. So for about $20,000, and they pay out of pocket mostly, Korean women can give birth to an American citizen and get all the social service benefits. They also get to avoid the compulsory 2-year military service that's required in Korea. And their children, of course, are eligible to apply to all the top U.S. universities. Now, a few years ago, there was a website on the internet, birthinusa.com, that advertised in Korean that they would help Korean mothers from birth to citizenship to have an American baby. It's very interesting, but many Korean citizens actually condemn this practice because, I mean, here the rich are buying their children out of service to their country, so they're very resentful. But the U.S. immigration authorities say there's nothing illegal about birth tourism as long as the mothers can pay their medical bills.
1 minute.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. For about $10,000, a Jamaican mother can deliver a U.S. citizen, and Jamaican doctors are part of this whole deception. They moved back the mother's birth date to avoid suspicion. And mothers from Jamaica report that they feign surprise when they're given the real due date when they first see their U.S. obstetrician. Oh, you mean I'm 38 weeks? I thought I was 34. But these women know very well all the benefits that they can receive here, Medicaid, food stamps, formula, the WIC program. In the last couple of years, there's been an increase of birth tourism from Venezuela. With Hugo Chavez in power, mothers report that they're very concerned that he will claim guardianship rights over their children. So dozens of women have come over to South Florida. In fact, there's a Venezuelan American Medical Association headed by a Venezuelan obstetrician who, for a fee, and he talks very publicly, he gives his name, talks to the press, for about $500 to $1,000, he'll help them find care. And they typically pay out of pocket $4,000 for doctor's fees and about $8,000 for hospital fees. I know I'm running out of time, but is everybody mad yet? Because if you're not, when you hear about Saipan, you will be livid. Well, this is due to a new law passed by George Bush in May called the Consolidated Natural Resources Act. And as a result of this act, Chinese mothers are delivering American babies. This act enabled the United States to take over the labor and immigration system of Saipan and the Marina Islands. So as a result, employers in Saipan are now applying for U.S. work visas for their immigrant workers. And babies born in Saipan are now automatically U.S. citizens. There have been programs started, immigration services in major Chinese cities, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Beijing, to help Chinese citizens work in Saipan and deliver an American baby there. Well, I was going to talk about the Hamdi case, but I guess I'm running out of time here. You all know about Yasser Hamdi, who was picked up as an enemy combatant in Afghanistan fighting for the Taliban. That got really complicated when he was in U.S. custody, and it was discovered that he was actually born in Louisiana to Saudi nationals who were here on temporary work permits. And I'm sure you're familiar with what happened with that case. The Supreme Court, he wasn't prosecuted. He was allowed to go back to Saudi Arabia under the condition that he relinquish his U.S. citizenship. But that case cost us dearly because it went from court to court and back again, ended up in the Supreme Court. And it also afforded some limited due process rights and right to legal counsel to all Gitmo detainees as a result of the Hamdi decision.